guys, today we are going to be doing some more looks with the Pure and Rawbeautykristi palette. Now, if you are new to my channel, I've already done a video with this. I will link that up in the corner. To quickly summarize my thoughts that I had, I only really used the colorful side in this palette because that's who I am. Those are the kind of colors that I enjoy. And personally, I felt like the shadows were very powdery, very kick-uppy. They were pigmented, but I had a little bit of a hard time like getting them to blend up properly and to stick in certain places. So I want to kind of try like different techniques, I guess, in this video and just do some more looks and really get to know this palette a little bit more before I give you my final review. If you want to just skip to the review part, here's a timestamp so you can just skip ahead. There will also be chapters down below in the like the time bar or whatever you want to call it. And I think for the first look, I want to mainly focus on the neutral side today. So I'm going to do one look with this one look with this one, and then one look combining both of them. So I think that's what we're going to go ahead and do. I'm going to prime my eyes with my Natasha Denona eyeshadow base. And I know in her video, she said that she likes to gently set her eyeshadow primer and she uses a concealer to prime with. Personally, I can't use concealers as an eyeshadow primer because they crease on me because I have such hooded eyes, which I know that she doesn't deal with that, which is probably why using concealer works so well for her. But I personally cannot do that, and I also don't like to set my eyeshadow primer. I don't know, it's just a personal preference thing. Maybe I'll try it on one eye and just kind of see if it makes a difference at all, but with how I apply my eyeshadows, it's just not really going to work with the techniques that I like to use. And like when I get a palette, I want to use it the way that I like to use my palettes. I don't want to have to figure out like the perfect technique for the shadows to be able to work. Like I feel like the shadow should be able to work used in a lot of different ways, you know? Like that to me proves that it's a good eyeshadow. Like I really don't feel like you should be having to finesse and really get to know a palette that well in order to make it work. But I am going to go ahead and just set one eye. So I'm just going to use some face powder here. And I'm just going to lightly set this eye, and then we can see how the difference is going to be. Like, I feel like they're probably going to blend better on this eye, but be more pigmented on this eye. And personally, I'll take pigment over blendability any day of the week, but that's just me. And I know that's probably a not so popular opinion. So let's see, what do I want to do today? I do think I mainly want this to be like a neutral look, which isn't really me, but I still want to just like try it. So I think maybe we'll do like, I don't know, a pop of something in a liner or something and just have it be a pretty grounded neutral look. So I'm gonna first start off by taking this shade right here. Now I know that Kristi usually goes from light to dark, so that's what I'm going to do as well. And this is the shade called Told You. So I am going to just tap off my brush a little bit, which is also not really something that I usually do. So I'm gonna go ahead and use this as my transition shade here. Just using my reference number 14 brush. And this is on the non-set side. And it's definitely gripping to the primer very well, which is what I'm used to when I'm using eyeshadows. I tend to be more of a pack on and then blend the edges rather than, you know, build up slowly, which I think is what she normally does. So far, so good. Let's go in on the set side and see if there is a difference. I can already tell that it's going on a lot smoother, which I guess is kind of what you want when you're working with neutrals. So this color is performing beautifully. I am excited to see Kristi do some tutorials using the colorful side just to see like what kind of techniques she uses with those, because that is what I'm the most curious about. Like I feel like most people can make a neutral eyeshadow work pretty well regardless of technique, but you need to be a little bit more specific with how you're placing your shadows and blending them together and such when you're using colorful shadows. So I'm definitely interested to see what she's going to be doing with that. I kind of wish that I waited a little bit, you know, to make this video so that I could wait for her to do some more looks with it. But since I want to get this video up kind of quickly, you know, for the views, who am I kidding? I wanted to just do this now, so maybe I'm gonna have to do some more looks after she's done some more looks herself. But for now, this is what we're doing. So to deepen this up, I'm gonna go into You're Not My Real Dad. And this shadow doesn't have as much kick up as the other ones that I've tried, and I'm going to use this in the outer corner of my eye and just use this to deepen up my crease with. Just going back into that first shade I used now to blend this out with. So far these are performing beautifully, but honestly, from neutrals, I wouldn't expect anything less. I feel like by now, if a brand has not perfected their neutral eyeshadow formula, what are you doing, you know? So next up, I'm gonna go into my Whole Heart, which is kind of this bone color matte. I'm just gonna take this on a fluffy brush and just kind of help the blend a little bit in the inner corner here, because sometimes it gets a little bit out of hand right here for me. Just gonna take a little bit more of that You're Not My Real Dad shade as well in the outer corner of my eye, and just make sure that this is as intense as I'm able to get this before I go in with anything on my lid. And I think I'm just gonna do an all matte look today because I'm just not really into that champagne shade on my lid. I want to do something with like that coral shade and maybe the yellow. I'm not really seeing a difference between the sides where I set it and where I didn't set it. Personally, I'm just used to working on a non-set base, so I really felt like it didn't really matter. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take my Natasha Denona eyeshadow base that I used as my primer, and I'm going to do a little bit of a cut crease with this. I'm just going to put some of this on the back of my hand here, and then I'm going to take a kind of packing brush that I would use with lid shades, and I'm just going to use this to do like a soft cut crease. I don't want this to be like a very sharp line. I'm mostly just putting down some of this to just have it be a base for the matte shadow that I'm putting down. And then first off, I'm going to grab the shade It Just Does, which is this beautiful coral, and I'm using my Sigma E27 brush. I'm just going to pack that on the middle part of my lid, and then for the inner part I'm going to use the yellow. This one is definitely a lot softer on the eye, it seems, than it is in the pan. It definitely doesn't appear as pigmented, even though I'm really packing the shadow on. It's still a beautiful color, but I do feel like it's a little bit more muted. And I'm just going to flip my brush and dip into the yellow here, and that's going to go on the rest of my lid. So I'm definitely more impressed with the browns than I am with the colors, which I'm not really surprised by, because from using the colors on the other side, that was kind of the same experience that I had. Just kind of going back and forth between these colorful shades and trying to really get them to be nice and intense, and also building them into my crease. But they're not really layering that well over the brown that I already have put down. Like, it's taken a lot of me going back and forth with these to really get them to be nice and opaque. Just gonna go back into the crease shade that I first used as my transition shade and just kind of run this through my crease one last time. I swear to God, I never know how to properly blend neutrals. I feel like it's harder to blend neutrals sometimes than it is to blend colors, because you need the blends to be just so perfect in order for it to really look like it's just blending into your skin. Whereas with colors, it's like you can't do that anyway because it's so colorful that it's not meant to blend into your skin. So I think this is where I'm going to leave it. I'm having a little bit of fallout here, but it's not too shabby. I'm gonna finish off my look and I'll just tell you what I use when I come back. Okay, so here's the look all done. I honestly really like how it turned out, despite it being more on the neutral side, which really isn't my thing, but I feel like I put enough of a spin on the completed look to really make it me still. So let's see, what did I do? For my waterline, I kind of ombre these two eyeliners from Lethal. This is the yellow one, it's in the shade Stereo, and then the orange one is Amplitude. So I just put a little bit of both, as you can see in my waterline. For my blush, I used the Natasha Denona Mini Bloom Blush, and then for my highlighter, I used Solar Sailor by Kaleidos, and I also put a little bit of this on my brow bone as well as my inner corner. My lipstick is Flat Out Fabulous by MAC. I absolutely love this, especially with this hair color. I just think it looks so good. So this is going to be the completed look with the neutral palette. Let's go ahead and do a look with the colorful palette and see if I can maybe have a little bit better look than I did in my first impression video. So fingers crossed, let's go ahead and give that a try. So let's go ahead and get into the second look. I'm going to prime today with my NARS Smudge Proof Eyeshadow Primer, and since I am going to be using only the colorful side today, I'm not going to set my primer because I really don't like using pressed pigments on top of something that is set. That is just a personal preference. I could see that really working with neutrals, but since I haven't seen Kristi use the colorful side yet, this is how I'm going to approach it, because this is how I always use colorful shadows and it just works great for me. So I think I have a plan. I think what I'm going to start with is I'm going to take this teal color here, which is called Garden State, and this is going to go in the first half of my crease or so, and then I'm going to, in the outer portion of my crease, go in with the dark blue. So I'm not going to be blending too much and really building too much on each other with these shadows in this look. And I don't really think that this formula is honestly that good for that purpose. So I want to try to kind of do something that's a little simpler, that don't require too much blending. So I'm taking this just over halfway across my lid because I am going to kind of pull that blue back over the top. So I want to make sure that I have enough room to blend these two together. And I'm also going to take a little bit of this color in the inner portion of my lower lash line. I probably should have gone ahead and primed under my eye for my first impression, but I totally forgot and it's kind of too late now. So I'm just going to try this without priming under my eye, and if it doesn't look good, I'll just go ahead and put some primer on top after when I'm done. And then for the outer part of my crease, I'm going to use the shade Hurtful. Still using the same brush. This is my reference number 13. Just going to place that in the outer corner of my eye, already having a little bit of fallout here, even though I did tap off my brush. So I'm going to try to really pack this on before I do any kind of blending here. Just going to meet that up with the teal, kind of blend these together. And I'm also going to wing out this shadow quite a bit here, and also just connect it under my eye to the teal underneath. Man, I'm getting so much fallout with this, and like I said in my first impression video, I usually don't get fallout with eyeshadows, so this is not really that fun to work with, and I am someone who just prefers to do my face first. It's just how I like to do my eyeshadows and my makeup in general, so this is honestly kind of annoying. And like, I know I could powder under my eyes, but like I said, I don't usually get fallout with eyeshadows. I want to make that very clear. I work with very, very pigmented, very powdery shadows a lot of the time, and I'm not used to getting this amount of fallout. And to me, that is something that is quite off-putting and not something that I really have to deal with. I don't mind having kick up in the pan. Like, kick up is different than fallout. It's two completely different things. I don't mind my shadows being powdery as long as it doesn't end up all over my face, if that makes sense. The shadows themselves are performing okay, but I just feel like it takes a long time to get the result that I'm really looking for. And I know I don't have to keep making disclaimers all the time, but it's like, if I don't say something, I just know I'm going to get comments. So just keep in mind, I work with a lot of indie brands, and indie brands have been killing the game when it comes to colorful eyeshadows for a very long time now. So that is what I'm comparing this palette to. I'm comparing this to my favorite eyeshadow palettes from indie brands or single shadows. I'm not comparing this to like brands that are sold at Sephora or Ulta. So I just want to make that clear because everyone has different things that they compare their makeup to. Someone who has 3 eyeshadow palettes will probably love this palette because I don't have the same range of experience with eyeshadows that I do. Like, I've just tried a lot of different eyeshadows and I just know what I like. And also just look at how messy this palette is right now. There is so much kick up in this. I do not swirl my brush into my shadows. I gently tap, and now I have this blue. See this blue here? I have it all over my yellow. It's just getting everywhere. Like, it is such a powdery formula. Like, this is Subculture times 2. Like, I have the second version of the Subculture palette. I don't have any issues with that palette at all. But this is like next level. I'm gonna take a little bit more of this teal shade in the outer corner. Wow, look at that fallout. It's just insane. Let me go ahead and try to remove that. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a little bit of loose powder on a brush and then use that to wipe it off with, because if I just go in and try to wipe with a brush that doesn't have any powder on, let me find a fan brush, then I just think it's going to stick to my face. So I'm just gonna take a fan brush here into a little bit of powder. Yeah, that did not really work. I mean, now I'm going to have blue on my face for the rest of the day. You know what? I'm not having a good time with this palette. I'm just gonna leave that on my face for now because it's pretty inevitable that I'm going to probably get more fallout. So I'm gonna just clean it all off at the same time after I'm done. Let's see, what am I gonna do next? I'm going to cut my crease. And I'm gonna use my P. Louise base to do this. And the reason why I do want to cut my crease with this look, if I really wanted to, I could just go in with a shimmer all over my lid, but I plan on putting another matte. I want to use a little bit of the pink shade, just like in the outer corner here. And to be able to do that, I want to make sure I have a clean base underneath. And also it's just going to help the shadow really stick where I want it to. So I'm just trying to fade this primer out in the outer corner of my eye, and I'm just going to take my finger and tap over the edges here. And I'm then going to grab the shade called Side Effect on a packing brush, and I'm just going to pat that on the outer portion of where I cut my crease. And I'm going to blend that into the blue. I'm going to make this a bit of a diagonal here, and then for the rest of my lid I'm going to use the shimmer. So like this formula is so weird. Like it's almost like it's pigmented, but it's sheer at the same time. Like I don't know how else to really explain it. It's very strange. And like I said before, I just find them to be extremely hard to work with, and they take a lot of finessing to make them look good. I'm then taking a little bit more of that blue in the outer corner just to make sure that these two are blended together, and I'm just tapping. I'm not doing any kind of blending or swiping because I feel like I'm just going to remove the color. And like it's just not looking that great. Like it's looking so patchy, and just these colors just do not layer at all. Like, do you see how just messy it's getting? It's looking absolutely terrible. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna grab the shimmer, and I'm basically just going to layer this all over my lid. Hopefully I'll be able to make it look like a nice gradient if I just pull it far enough out, but like this is just not good, you guys. Like I really wanted to like this, but my first impression thoughts seem to be pretty accurate still. I'm gonna go ahead and spray this just so we can get this nice and opaque. I'm just gonna place that on the rest of my lid here. And I'm just going to layer it basically all over the mats that I put down because they are looking terrible. And I'm hoping that this is just going to give the shimmer a bit of a base underneath so that we can see the colors poking through. Yeah, so that looks a lot better. I mean, obviously you can't really see the pink as much anymore. I'm also just wrapping this around in my inner corner to meet it up with the lower lash line. I'm gonna go ahead and finish off with my eyes, clean up a little bit, and I'll come back and show you the look. So here's the look all done. I really like how it turned out despite having some issues getting there. To finish off, I did some liner and mascara, of course, and I used white in my waterline. This is Lethal Cosmetics Gel Liner in the shade Buffer. And then for my lip, I used the Nabla Shine Theory Lip Gloss in the shade Dress Code. So that's how I decided to finish off my look. Yeah, I don't really want to get too much into detail about like my experiences and stuff. Obviously you've seen some already, but I want to save most of my thoughts for like at the end of the video. So I think we should just go ahead and get into the last look where I'm going to be combining both of the palettes. So hopefully the next look is going to be a little bit easier to do since I am going to be playing with some of the neutrals. The neutral side definitely seems to be a little bit better. So fingers crossed that the next look is going to be a bit easier to do. Hi, my microphone died, so we're gonna do this voiceover style. For this look, we're gonna be using both sides of the palette, both the neutral one and the colorful one. I'm gonna start off this look by priming my eyes with my Kaleidos eyeshadow primer. And I'm not sure if you can see it, but I did have a little bit of staining from the look that I did in the second look with the pink on my lid. It's not really a big deal for me, but I still thought I would mention it. So we're gonna start off this look on the neutral side with the shade Moo Point. I'm going to use that as my transition shade and just put that into my crease. Not going to do anything fancy here. I'm just going to build it up to the intensity that I want, and I took it kind of slow because I didn't want to have too much fallout with this shade, and it did seem like it performed very well. It built up, you know, to where I wanted it to be, and it was quite effortless, so I did really like that shade, and I think that it's a nice transition shade. And to deepen this up a little bit, I'm flipping it over to the colorful side and I'm grabbing the red, which is called Flavor Town. I'm making sure to tap this off because these shadows just scare me. I'm starting off by putting it in the outer corner of my eye, and I'm also going to pull it through my crease. If you can see here, it's a little bit patchy. It was kind of hard to just build up to where I want it to be. It took quite a bit of just packing on and building and blending and packing and building and blending to really get it to where I want it to be, but I do feel like I got it there eventually, and it ended up looking really nice. I'm then going back into my transition shade, and I'm just running that underneath my eye as a transition shade to the red again. I'm basically just doing the same thing that I did on my lid. So just going back in with the red, it again took a little bit of time to get it to build up to the intensity that I wanted it to be, but it did end up getting there in the end, and I think it looked nice there too. Next up, I'm grabbing the bottom right brown, not the one that I'm pointing at. I'm going into You're Not My Real Dad because that is the darkest shade in the palette. I don't know why I was pointing at that one, but I'm using this to deepen up my crease with, and just in case I was having a little bit of patchiness with that red still, I just wanted to cover it up with something a little bit darker that was going to layer better. Just taking it a little bit on my lower lash line as well. So that's going to be it for the crease shades. For my lid, I'm first going to take some of my NYX glitter primer and just kind of create a bit of a faux cut crease. I like doing this instead of having to do an actual cut crease, especially if I'm just going to put a shimmer on the lid. It works perfectly for this and it just saves a lot of time. And once that's done, I'm going to take the shimmer in the colorful side of the palette and basically just put that all over my lid where I put down that glitter primer. And I really love this shade. I love the formula on this. I love that you can really build it up to be nice and opaque, but you can also kind of sheer it out and have it be more of a topper shade. I think that makes it very versatile, especially as being the only shimmer in the palette. It makes it so that if you want to put down like some kind of a colorful matte underneath, you can get to show through the shimmer if you want to, like I said, layer it. So for the inner corner, I'm taking the white shade, and I just wanted to try it because I had seen some other people use this and it looked so nice. And this is a really, really nice white. It's super pigmented and super opaque, and I really like how having a white inner corner looks. I just think it makes your eyes look so much more awake and wide and open. So to finish off, I'm just grabbing a little bit more of the transition shade that I used just to kind of tie that brown in the outer corner in with the, having some fallout there, in with the shimmer on my lid, just so we can get a good transition. And I think this was a good choice. It layered very nicely over that shimmer, and I think that the end result here is looking really nice. To finish off, I'm taking my gel liner from Lethal Cosmetics. This is in the shade Ox. It's the kind of tealy blue, and I'm just popping that in my waterline. I cannot stop using these in my waterline. I think that they are so beautiful. So that's going to basically be it for like the eyeshadows and all that stuff. So I'm going to finish off my eyes, and I will come back and give you my final thoughts on this palette. So here's the look all done, and I was able to charge my battery for like half an hour while I did this look. Hopefully it's going to be enough to get me through the review part. To finish off the look, I used one of the Bite lip crayons in the shade Tatin. And yeah, let's talk a little bit more about this palette. I mean, I really like how all of my looks turn out in the end. I just felt like it was a struggle to get there, and maybe that didn't show up on camera because I couldn't leave all the footage in. Let's be real, I mean, this video would have been an hour and a half and you guys wouldn't even have made it to this point if that was the case. So I had to cut out quite a lot of blending, quite a lot of like fixing my fallout, quite a lot of just trying to build up the shadows to be the pigmentation that I wanted them to be and to get rid of any kind of patchiness. And like I was saying with the fallout, there was so much fallout, you guys. I will say that the neutral side of this palette is fine. I didn't have any issues with this. I think that if you are someone who really likes neutrals and you don't really dabble in color too much, I think that you're going to love this because this brown in particular, this one, so beautiful. It's so pigmented, it's so rich, it blends so well, it builds so nicely. Like, I feel like if you're having patchiness issues with anything on the colorful side, maybe use this one in the outer corner to kind of cover that up a little bit because this layers like a dream. So I did layer this a little bit on the outer corner of my eye today after I used the red because I just felt like the red just wouldn't really build properly. And that's kind of how I felt with all of the shadows on the colorful side as well. It's like, yeah, they're pigmented, but at the same time, they're kind of sheer. It is the strangest matte formula that I've tried in such a long time, and they are so powdery. Like, I don't know how many times I need to say that, and that should not be an excuse. You know, like, I've heard so many people, Christy included, being like, yeah, they're this powdery because it makes them more blendable, but like, I have eyeshadows that are not that powdery, that are still blending beautifully, and I also have shadows that are very powdery, but doesn't create as much fallout. Like, my issue with this is that if you forget to tap off your brush and you go in and even as much as just tap your brush on your eyelid, half of what is on your brush is going to fall on your face. Like, I don't have that issue with any other palettes, and I was even playing last night, just like on the back of my hand with different primers, with different like methods of setting it and trying to blend it and building it and like going dark to light and light to dark and just like testing around with these colorful mattes. And I just don't think they're that good. They're very, very hard to work with. Like, I struggled even on the back of my hand to get some of those shadows to just blend together and like look nice and not patchy. So I don't know what to tell you. Like, I've seen a lot of people play with this palette and say that they like it, but I've seen it myself, like with my own eyes on their footage, that their eye looks are looking quite patchy, and I don't know if it's just not showing up for them, if they're not saying it, but every time I see people use this, the way that the shadows go on the eyes doesn't look good. And it just takes a long time to get like your desired result. And it's like, yeah, you can make really nice looks with this palette if you just have the patience. But I know for myself personally that this is not a palette that I'm going to be reaching for the colorful side probably ever, because I have all of these colors in better formulas, and there's also only one shimmer in this, which, I mean, that's totally fine. That was Kristi's vision and I respect that. It's not really what I would have done if I made a palette, but like, you know, everybody has different preferences, and I do really respect that she put a lot of mattes in here. I just wish that the mattes were good. Like, that is my issue. Like, if I had liked the mattes in this palette would have been such a home run. But for me to ever really reach for this kind of formula again, I need to be in a specific mood. Like, if I was in a hurry, I would never dare to even get close to this, because especially if I had somewhere important to go, I just wouldn't risk it. You know, to me, it's just not worth it, because I struggled so much with a lot of these shadows. I don't really like the pink. The pink just kind of, it's weird. Again, it's one of those kind of sheer but pigmented formulas. I know that makes no sense and is like contradicting itself, but that's just kind of how I feel about it. You know, like it is nice and pigmented, but it's just not like smooth and opaque. I don't know what it is that I'm trying to say, but I just don't like working with it. I don't like the purple. In my first impression look, I wore the purple on my lower lash line, and by the end of the day, it was basically gone. I had nothing left, and my upper lid was looking really patchy. Don't like the purple. I don't like the blue down here. Holy fallout. I mean, I just don't even want to talk about it. This teal color is okay. I had a little bit of a hard time in look number 2 getting it to like blend out properly. It took a very, very long time to really blend out. The warm tones are okay. The red is a little bit patchy if you're trying to build too much. I don't think I've tried this orange yet. This yellow is okay. It's just okay. I think my favorite shade in this palette is honestly like the matte white and the shimmer. I thought that those performed very, very well. So yeah, I mean, I hope this was helpful. I know this is probably going up before the pre-sale is over, but I also think that this is sold at Ulta now. I could be wrong, but I hope this was helpful if you were like considering getting this today, maybe, if you're watching this on the day it goes up. And if you're watching this at a later time, hopefully I gave you a little bit of inspiration to at least do some different looks with this. I don't know. Let me know if you picked this up. I would love to hear you guys' thoughts. I really just want to say again that I respect Kristi so much. I love her. It's not her fault that the formula is the way it is. PUR is the ones who made the eyeshadows, not Kristi, and I'm sure that Kristi tried her absolute best to make the best shadows that PUR was able to make. Maybe she wanted them to be like this, but I felt like there was a little bit of compromising being done. I could be completely wrong, and she absolutely loves this formula. But for myself, it's not my favorite, but I still love Kristi. I'm happy I have this palette. I bought this to support her, even if I'm not going to be using it a lot. It makes me really happy to just look at this and know that I have this in my collection. I'm going to treasure this and keep it forever because, like I said, I just respect Kristi so much. And even though it's not my favorite formula, it just, at the end of the day, it just doesn't really matter, you know? Like, I have other eyeshadows I can use if I want to, but I still wanted to give you an honest review and my thoughts on this palette, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. Like I said, let me know if you got it and what your thoughts are. I would love to hear them. If you want to see some other review videos that I have on my channel, here's my playlist. And if you're new, I would love it if you would consider subscribing, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.